Welcome to Nerd Sports. Today we're going to talk about, what are we talking about? Because I didn't hear anything in the news for anything, and I can't even make a joke because there's nothing really other than the horse. And this is the last week, and I totally forgot.
Oh, the Kentucky Derby, yeah.
Yeah, they ended up having it to where it's steroids. Apparently, you can't do that with horses now.
Well, it's a therapeutic thing to help the horses recover, but you have to stop 2 weeks prior to a race, from what I understand. And that way, it's purged from the horse's system. And I'm like, okay. Now, horses using PEDs, I get it. Yeah, we know that's bad. We don't want to do that. But the jockeys are not allowed to use PEDs. I'm like, okay. To me, I can't wrap my head around it because you're on the horse. Whip the horse, and you're like 4'7".
No.
You know?
The only thing I can actually think of on that, I'm gonna have to turn this down a little bit. There we go. The only thing I can actually think on that is if he gets too much muscle mass in his thigh area, and he's squeezing the horse, and he breaks a couple of the horse's ribs. That's the only thing I can think of.
I don't know. Some of the I don't want to say that they're bigger stories because people are making them bigger stories than they actually need to be. Fenway has been cleared for full capacity attendance starting May 29th. And now you start to hear all these, you start to see all these, liberal comments in the Facebook threads or on Twitter. And it's like, oh, well, I won't be going to a game because I think that's too soon. And it's like, we know who the hell you voted for. Down here in Texas, we've been doing games at 100% capacity for, every game so far this year. And our cases are still declining.
Yeah. Abbott's even taken away the $300 come the end of June. He's like, we don't need it. Stop. Just go to work.
Yeah.
And I finally, what's really good is my job's actually hiring up again. So
really,
I already put it up in the application and everything, and for that. So
yes, but you get all these people, and it's like, okay, you and I have discussed it kind of off camera before. Yeah, you're hearing it. Yeah, that's on your end.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you and I have discussed it before.
Yeah.
Where it's like we hear, you sit there and listen to these other teams' radio broadcasts, and a lot of teams are having their broadcast crews commentate, call games remotely from their home stadiums, right? Which I find just okay.
For live sports, that's actually really disconcerting.
Well,
because you're it's basically just watching on TV with another person.
Yeah, it's like watching TV with extra steps, to quote Rick Sanchez,
Yeah.
But I'm just like, okay.
Love that show.
Right? It's like it's just watching TV with extra steps. But
it's basically inviting a person in that sometimes you like but sometimes you don't.
Right, I enjoy listening to the radio broadcasts for baseball games. It's a little bit more, imagination intensive. You really have to pay attention. Whereas you watch games on TV, you have the luxury of zoning out.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole point of zoning out. I mean, watching TV like that and being able to zone out.
Yeah.
But
and okay, so other news around baseball, real quick. Kevin Pillar plays for the Mets.
Mm-hmm.
He got drilled in the face with a 94.5-mile-an-hour fastball Monday night. Yeah. They were playing the Braves, so and it hit him square in the face. The ball came in on him. It was a rising fastball. The ball tailed in towards the hitter because he's a right-handed hitter, and it just annihilated his face. He had blood pouring out of his face. But he tweeted out this morning, he was thanking everybody for reaching out to him, that he was fine. So, it's good to see. Now, and some of the things that I see as far as like becoming a trend in baseball, we're getting into this launch angle era where hitters are more concerned about the launch angle of the ball coming off the bat, so it affects the way that they swing. And kind of to me, what it looks like the pitchers are trying to compensate by throwing harder. They're trying to blow it past, and they're hurlers now instead of pitchers. And
Yeah, there's no real finesse to it.
right, but the problem with higher velocity pitching is the lack of control. You're going to get these guys, they're going to throw 95, 96, 97 miles an hour. Some guys can throw 100, 102. Aroldis Chapman can throw 105. Okay? If you can't control those speeds, don't fucking do it. Because at the end of the day, I mean, is it really worth being able to say you can throw a baseball that hard if you can't control it because you're risking hitting that batter? I mean, yes, granted, there's a degree of risk with every at bat. Like when I go see my kid play his little league games, kids getting plunked all the time. Granted, those balls are only moving at 40, 50 miles an hour, maybe 60, depending on the pitching skill of the kid on the bump. But
Well, the only thing you can actually have, and a better reference to that is if you buy like a really fast car. You buy a really fast car. I mean, even me, I've had fast cars and everything like that, but I've actually did due diligence, and I've learned how to control that.
Yeah, it's about throttle control. It's about being able to understand the balance and the center of gravity and things like that. So, I mean, this is the part of that conversation, your point of reference, where we can ruffle feathers by saying, yeah, take note, Mustang owners, just because you've got the power to put down on the wheels doesn't mean that you necessarily have to mash it every time you turn a corner to try to do a burnout.
Yeah.
But something else that happened over the weekend that was of note. Last week, the Angels designated for assignment, they released Albert Pujols at the end of his 10-year contract that he had with them. Albert Pujols, obviously, he's going to be, he's heading for the Hall of Fame. After he retires, the 5-year requirement post-retirement is when you become eligible. But I doubt very seriously that he's going to need but maybe one time around. He'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer, in my opinion.
The only other news I can see for baseball is the.
Hold on, wasn't done.
Oh,
wasn't done. He signed a contract with the Dodgers for 1 year, and everybody was like, well, everybody's like, well, this is going to be his last year. He should go back to St. Louis and finish it all where it started. There was a lot of consensus about that, but you started breaking down like the roster that St. Louis has got. I mean, the National League doesn't have a designated hitter. They've already got a first baseman, which is with the position that Albert Pujols fields anyway. Because whenever they go to a National League park and they have to play by the National League rules, that's what he does. That's what he's been doing for the last 9 years.
That's one thing I never really understand is the different rules and the different sizes.
Well, with the National League, it's more of a strategy type game. The American League, it's always been called the junior circuit, and I'm just like whatever. The American League's set up more for power. They're more hitter centric. I mean, the pitchers, they can specialize in doing what they do because all they do is pitch. You do see a lot of pitchers, they like to try and try their hand at hitting. Some of them are really good at it. Madison Bumgarner, I mean, he pitches for the Diamondbacks this year. He's a really great hitter. He's gone yard a few times, but with the American League style of play, where you have the designated hitter, I mean, you can get that one guy. It's almost like that's the kind of the league that everybody kind of goes to. Especially the power hitters, they can really settle into that role, and they don't have to worry about fielding unless they go to a National League park where they have to pick up their glove like maybe 4 or 5 times a year. But with the Dodgers kind of swooping in and signing Pujols, it really kind of caught people off guard. At least that was my take on it. And then he shows up last night in a Dodgers uniform, and it just didn't look right at all. You know, I mean, you get used to seeing a guy in one or two uniforms, and then all of a sudden, here he comes in, and he's wearing basically the National League's version of the Yankees uniform. You don't want to say the guy sold out because, I mean, he wants to play, and he just needed a place to play. The Dodgers gave him that opportunity. It was kind of an easy move for him because he was already living in the Los Angeles area playing for Anaheim, and just said, you know what, screw it. I'll just go to work across town instead of where I've been going for the last 9 years. And so,
I mean, did he get a pay boost for that?
No.
So it's just him wanting to play the game.
Yeah, it's just him wanting to play the game. I mean, I think let me see if I can find what was it? It was, I mean, and I mean he was productive last night. So I mean he did drive in a run, but let me see here. See if I can find the. Yeah, he went 1 for 4 last night with an RBI single, but it doesn't really kind of go into the details of his contract. I think they might come back out with that later. You know, I mean, because somebody's going to figure it out. But you know, do I agree with the move? Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence about it. I mean, yeah, it might be a cool place for him to finish out his career. The nostalgists out there, myself included, would love to see him maybe, you know, do like take a page out of the NFL's playbook and sign a one-day contract and retire as a Cardinal. You know, because I mean, when he goes into the Hall of Fame, if he doesn't go into the Hall of Fame wearing a Cardinals hat, that's going to be almost considered a crime against humanity, considering the fact that, you know, a majority of the milestones that he hit in his career and his accolades and championships. I mean, the 2 championships that he won were with the Cardinals. But, you know, so I mean, that was kind of the big thing in baseball. Let me see here.
Well, I just seen something that, okay, let me actually click on it. Yankees COVID outbreak up to 9 cases. CDC to look into breakthrough positives.
Yeah.
They have 9 members that have COVID.
Now, do not get me sideways here.
Yeah, I was just saying.
Well, no, and it's not because it's the Yankees. I mean, at the end of the day, they're players.
Yeah.
And you know, these guys that are on the last year of a contract, next year when they become free agents, they could sign and become a member of the Red Sox. They could become a member of any other of the other teams across the major league. And you want to see them do well. You just don't want to see them do well in a Yankees uniform. At least I don't. But that aside, you know, when you put your objectivity hat on, you know, you really don't want to see that. And I think a lot of it is, you know, the way that they handle the restrictions up in New York. I really do. I think that's got a lot to do with it. You see people walking around in public with masks on still in New York City, and it's like, why? Why is that necessary? Well, aside from the fact that you've probably got, 5-6 million people jammed into the area, the size of Fort Worth.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you also have, I went to the post office, and that's considered a federal property, so you have to wear a mask. We're going on to the base and everything. Base was a little different. I had to wear the mask.
Yeah.
And going up to the post office, it was like everybody was not wearing a mask. I was like, oh, just gonna take this off now, toss it in the trash.
Yeah.
But it's to the point where you get so much condescending feedback from actual people that think they know that they're talking about. And I hate to say it, that, I mean, if you go up and you go, oh, you don't have to wear a mask. Oh, you have to wear a mask. Oh, you have to double up on mask. You have to, I'm like, really? You're just...
Yeah, the doubling up on masks.
Paying you, is
it me, or is it the doubling up on the masks? Does that kind of like fall into the faulty logic of like doubling up on a condom? Because you know that doesn't work, right? You know, so I mean, it's, you know, all we're doing by doubling up on masks and wearing masks
to open up.
Hey, you know
I
what?
was
I,
about
I,
to-
I
I was-
opened the door for you. You chose to just
Well,
stand there.
it's like pulling out twice.
Yeah, I guess. I'm just not going to fight with you on that one.
But
But I mean, as far as like the active cases or the cases that they think that they've got coming down, specifically with that organization, I don't know if the other organizations are still having problems with it, or if it's just because it's the Yankees, they're more high profile, and everybody just seems to kind of jump on that bandwagon because, well, it's an easy, high click count,
yeah, it's just something
type article. But
it gets to the point where it's like what I was saying on our channel and everything like that. Our channel is very, very hard to find. If you actually find us, we're on Facebook. I post that it on there, so you can click on it, and sometimes even subscribing and everything. I mean, unless you like and subscribe it, which you should do.
you should, yeah, and click that little bell and say all instead of none,
Yeah.
and you'll get notified when we post new material.
If you actually like us, but we also give free T-shirts to people that comment. Just
But it's
randomly.
got to be good comments. You can't throw something easy out there. No low hanging fruit. I mean,
That.
I mean, it's gotta be
gets
relevant.
If it gets a lot of comments and everything for the T-shirts, I'm gonna have to do it randomly. I'm sorry. But
well, no, okay. So if we start getting a lot of comments because people are trying to score themselves a free shirt, you know what? Comments with the most likes.
Yeah,
That's an easy way to fix it.
yeah, that's true.
So and you see other channels doing it, but why not? Why not us? It's like
Yeah.
it was the Red Sox in '04, Red Sox Nation in '04. Everybody's like, well, why not us? I mean, the further they got into the playoffs and everything, it's like, well, why not us?
Yeah.
And then you started hearing things like Cowboy Up, but we're getting off track. So yeah, I mean, if
Yeah.
we can really get into, we start getting more traffic in our comment sections. It's the comments with the most likes, or the comments that we feel drop the biggest knowledge bomb, or just one of those comments that really stops the conversation in the comment section dead cold because somebody was just completely savage. Hey, you know what? Kudos. You put forth the cognitive elbow grease to enlighten the rest of the world. Yeah, we'll throw you a T-shirt so that way you can, cover up your man boobs or whatever it is that you're, sporting these days, and you're, on the other side of the screen.
Man boobs. I like that one. And if you just want to, we'll sell the shirts. But
Oh yeah, real quick. Okay, so that Boston had these City Connect jerseys that were yellow and blue and looked like the UCLA Bruins,
yeah,
uniform, right? Well, it's going to be a reoccurring theme throughout the course of the season. Major League Baseball is just going to rotate teams. They're going to pick like maybe one or two teams a month. I think the frequency is going to become higher and higher till the end of the season. The next City Connect jerseys is going to be for the Miami Marlins, and it is. I'll send you the link so that way we can post a picture of it on the video.
okay,
But it's a Cuban inspired uniform. Miami honors Sugar Kings in the new City Connect look. Here, I'll turn the iPad so you can see it. That
Sugar Kings.
Sugar Kings, I
thought they called those barons sugar barons. When did they upgrade to kings?
yeah, I have no idea.
they
So
did-
I mean, it's like, okay, so the Sugar Kings is basically, well, no, Sugar Kings is it's a Latin baseball league, or baseball team.
Oh, okay. That
So
makes more sense.
I mean, they've got a lot of they got a lot of influence on baseball. Not baseball, but baseball is how they say it. Across Latin America. Of course, Nike's in there trying to do the whole cash grab thing. It's like, oh, hey, look at us. I finally managed to score myself a replica Nike baseball jersey. The other day, it was on sale online, so I grabbed one. And the reason why it was on sale is because the player doesn't play for Boston anymore. But Andrew Benintendi, dude, we need him back, like in a bad way. Like seriously, that was a terrible, terrible trade. But I digress. So, so I mean, Miami, the Marlins Stadium is already in the middle of like Little Havana down there in Miami, anyway. So I mean, you're going to expect those jerseys to be really, really popular. Miami's a little bit more crafty as far as the knockoff market's going to be concerned, so be on the lookout for those as well. But those home games, when that home series, when those jerseys are going to be, featured, that's going to be probably. I mean, you're not going to see a lot of people in the stands, but you'll see a lot of people walking around with those jerseys on.
Okay.
And I think a lot of it is, baseball is really kind of a. I mean, it's a great distraction for some of the people in Florida. You get those diehards that move to Florida from other regions of the country. But I just think that the market for a sustainable baseball fan base that's dedicated to one team or the other, it's just really, it's really hit or miss. I mean, when Derek Jeter, when Derek Jeter bought the Marlins, good Lord. When Derek Jeter bought the Marlins, he
Need some water?
just drank some more coffee. But excuse me, when Derek Jeter bought the Marlins, one of the first things that he did was he took out that atrocious piece of artwork that was out there in dead center field. The thing is that the original ownership group of the Marlins, when they built that new stadium, they put this artwork out there that was mechanical, and it activated every time somebody hit a home run, right? It was every time the home team hit a home run, this thing had a Marlin, and it just looked like Bob Ross would not classify this as a happy accident. I mean, this thing was atrocious. So one of the things that Derek Jeter did was he immediately took that sculpture out. So, but with I mean, the jersey, to me, the jersey doesn't look that bad. It's not in your face. I mean, it's got that gaudy kind of like a tangerine-ish blood orange, orange.
Yeah.
The pinstripes I kind of dig, because I mean, it kind of looks like the old like the zoot suits of the 30s and 40s.
Wait a minute, were the Marlins in a different place?
Well, they were the Florida Marlins for the longest time, and then they just became the Miami Marlins.
Oh God, yeah, you're right. That was horrible. That is. There's like two of them, is there?
What, two jerseys? No.
No, not the jerseys. The artwork.
I think it was one big sculpture, but I think that they kind of like combined it. But it was a mechanical piece of artwork, and it was atrocious. You'd hear commentators from other, the visiting teams come in, and they're like, "Yep, man, there's that ugly thing out there in center field." And when he took it out, aesthetically, it made the park a little bit more pleasing to the palate. It wasn't just over the top. I think that the ownership group that put that sculpture out there, they were trying so hard to be Miami that they forgot that being Miami was just, hey, let's just be Miami.
Yeah, because it went from one sculpture to two sculptures. I mean, I'm looking at the
evolution of it.
The evolution of it. It went from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4.
Yeah. Now, you were saying in other news, and we're gonna try to wrap up the sports here today. The NBA play-in started.
Jazz are looking at number 1 right now.
Really? Yeah. Oh, and
because right now it's I guess it's
the Lakers are kind of in freak out mode.
Yeah.
LeBron hurt his ankle again.
Oh no.
I know. It's just it's tragic.
What is the team gonna do? It's not like he's like the prime player of the whole team. He's not he is the team.
Yeah. He is the team. Oh my God. But I mean at this point you have to look at LeBron, And you're either one of two camps. You're either full potato for LeBron, and he's the greatest thing since Betty White because she's actually older than sliced bread. Or literally, she was born and then like a few years later, somebody marketed
Yeah, it's
sliced bread.
Huh. Yeah, okay.
Anyway, so either you're full potato for LeBron or you are like myself, where yes, the guy is. He has his merits. He plays a very physical. He played a very physical game. He has a high degree of talent. For somebody with no college education, he has a lot of business sense.
Yeah.
And
I hate to say this, it doesn't take that much for to have a lot. Of
well,
business.
with the money that you've got, with the money that he's got, no, you're right. It doesn't take a lot of forethought to learn how to invest.
Yeah.
But do I think that the NBA would probably be any worse off without him? No, I don't. If anything else, I think that the NBA might be taken a little bit more legitimately, just because we don't have to sit here and listen to the dribble that is coming out of LeBron's mouth. I mean, he's always going to be an omnipresent kind of a thing because he's going to find his way to weasel his way back into the sport, whether he's going to try to figure out a way to sit on the desk with Shaq, doing TNT games, or he's going to try to figure out a way to buy into a team as a part owner. But I think as a player,
I figured China would help him out with that.
Well, yeah, but I think as a player, yeah, he's already the second half of the season he was already getting limited playing time because of his quote unquote injuries. And it's like, I mean, you could even go back as far as 5-6 years, and we're talking about LeBron being the king of the flop.
Yeah.
And
he was. I guess it's that whole people hating winners thing, but he just opens up his. It's not that
he doesn't help his cause.
No, he doesn't.
At all. He doesn't help his cause. Now, again, we've had that discussion before, previous episodes, where it's like we're about the freedom of speech, but when you're at work, do your job.
Yeah.
You're at work to work. Like if you and I showed up to work and we started spouting off at the mouth and just unleashed this torrent of verbal diarrhea like he is, and like he does, we'd get fired.
Yeah.
Because that's not the time or the place. When we're at work, we're there to work. And I think that, and it's got nothing to do with color, so let's just disqualify that as an argument right now. But I think that, because you see it on both sides. You've got players of every ethnicity in different sports that get in there and they are they just get this, these huge contracts, and then all of a sudden they think that their opinion matters. And it's like, well, yes, your opinion matters, but not on the court, not on the field. Because you're at work. I pay you to do a job. I don't pay you to come in here and use my team as a platform to push your point of view down everybody's throat.
On something like that, what that actually basically is they're they're talked up. I'll just use talked up. They're talked up to be that kind of person at times.
Yeah.
Because if someone goes, oh, you have a platform, you should use that platform to do your due diligence to this cause or this cause. Now, some of the causes they actually put up too, like the dude that played the T-1000.
Talking about.
God, I can't remember his
No.
Patrick?
Yeah, Patrick. I feel bad now.
Yeah.
God, Patrick.
Robert Patrick.
Robert
God.
Patrick, thank you.
I mean, he does so much stuff for veterans and everything.
Yeah, him and Gary Sinise.
Yeah, Gary Sinise. Those are the two people. I mean, even if it wasn't veteran stuff and everything like that, they still do, like, they hands over heels. They're just regular guys.
Yeah, they use their platform in more of a philanthropic, context as opposed to using it as a sounding board to mold minds,
Yeah.
and I even use that term very, very loosely, but I want to get away from the NBA because, with the playoffs just barely starting, there's not going to be a whole lot to talk about. Just kind of run down tonight's schedule. So just real quick, and then we'll move on to something else because I just got some news that dropped in the NASCAR world. But
Okay.
so tonight, it's 6:30 Eastern time on TNT. There's going to be the Charlotte and Indiana series that's going to start. And then at 9 o'clock Eastern time, it's going to be 8 Central on TNT. There's going to be the Washington and Boston series that's going to start for the play-in. Tomorrow night, the Wednesday the 19th, we're going to see the San Antonio Spurs and the Memphis Grizzlies face off. And then on ESPN at 10:30, 9:30 Central, Golden State Warriors versus the LeBron-less Lakers. So that'll be something. Those are going to be the basically kind of like the big highlight games for this play-in tournament. We'll see how it all pans out. See what kind of reception that those teams that win those play-in tournaments get once they get into the actual brackets for the actual NBA playoffs, and then we can just go from there. And we'll have more things to talk about, and we'll definitely, as the weeks progress, we'll keep up with what's going on in the NBA playoff world, because it is going to be something of note. So it's we're doing our due diligence by reporting and just throwing our opinions in because, well, it's our channel. We can do what we want. We don't even get paid for this, so it's not like we're at work.
But you get free food at times.
Yeah, at times. Okay, so moving on. So
God, I wish I could move on from this. You ever get into that rabbit hole on accident and you just wonder what it was?
right,
Well, I had to get Robert Patrick's name and everything like that because we just had
you hit his
brain fart.
IMDb page, didn't you?
No,
No.
I hit T1000 strain. I was like, T1000 strain? I was thinking medical strain, okay?
Okay.
It's pot.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah.
It's one of those things
it popped
really,
into my head, and I was like, "Well, no, that can't be where he's going with it." But yeah, that's exactly where he's going with it.
I was literally thinking medical strain. I was like, there's like, well, they name weird stuff for like medical stuff and everything like that, and
Yeah.
then I was like, what the hell is this?
All right. So moving into NASCAR real quick.
Okay.
Next week, the Circuit of the Americas, which is down in Austin, it's a road course.
Yeah.
The inaugural NASCAR races are going to be run down there
Okay.
next weekend. So it's going to be the first time NASCAR's run on that track. The Xfinity guys and the Cup Series guys are both going to run their inaugural races next weekend. It's a quirky little track. Really, it's got a lot of history for as young of a track as it is. It's got a lot of history on it already, just basically due to like the IndyCar, the touring series that run there.
Okay.
You got a lot of drivers in the Xfinity and the Cup Series that are running those iRacing simulations on that track already to try to get used to the turns that the track is going to be. That the track's going to offer. Just to try to figure out where their exit points are going to be, where their entry points are going to be, throttle control, stuff like that, to get some familiarization with the track before they actually strap into the cars.
Okay.
But Brad Keselowski, this dropped about 2 hours ago.
Okay.
Brad Keselowski, he currently runs the number 2 Ford Mustang for Penske Racing. He's already won a couple of championships in that car. One or two championships in that car. Anyways. They're saying that he is considering an offer to become the next driver with an ownership interest in the sport. And it's we're talking about, we're going way back. We're talking about like Alan Kawicki, Tony Stewart. They were owner drivers of, they owned the car that they drove, and so their team, right, kind of a thing.
And what a lot of people don't understand is how difficult that is because those cars are freaking expensive.
Yeah, the cars themselves
And
are expensive. They're like $250,000 a
That's
piece.
not the expensive thing.
Right. The expensive part is the
The
insurance, the maintenance, the upkeep, the travel. I mean, that's where these sponsorship dollars come into play.
Your crew.
The crew. I mean, and it's just. I mean, and that's why everybody kind of like they don't understand that. So it's a business. Just like you start seeing these corporate sponsors on basketball jerseys now.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why are they doing that? Well, because the NBA is taking a hit. They're losing money. They're hemorrhaging cash, and so they reach out to these corporations and say, well, you can put your logo on our jerseys if you help with our our annual operating costs, kind of a thing. Plus, you get seen. It's a win-win because
That's like what we do for free for Black Rifle Coffee. I mean,
yeah,
it's seen.
Like it's seen. So I mean, if they were to come in and say, you know what, we're going to sponsor your podcast, then then at that point, yes, we have to do those obligatory commercials and whatever. But and that's fine. Evan, give us a call. But getting back to the story, Brett Keselowski, he's only 37 years old.
Yeah.
And the guy, he can drive. I mean, the dude's a wheelman. I may not agree with his attitude or his personality a lot of times, but at the end of the day, the road that he took to get to where he's at in the sport it's really, if you've never heard it, check out the Dale Jr. Download. It's a podcast that Dale Earnhardt Jr. Hosts.
Yeah.
When he interviewed Brett Keselowski, I think it was last year. Dude, it was great. It was a really great story, and it's really a good podcast to subscribe to too. Also, so yeah, Dale Jr. gets a free plug from us as well. But he's been offered a full-time Cup Series ride with Roush Fenway Racing, beginning next season in a deal that would include part ownership in a renamed team called RFK, which is Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. And it's been confirmed by multiple sources, so it's not one guy just kind of throwing something out there to say, well, you heard it here first. Let's hope it's accurate.
It's basically him saying it. So
Yeah. Now, he currently runs the number 2 car for Penske, Roger Penske. But he would become the driver of the number 6 Ford, which is currently being run by Ryan Newman.
Okay. What's that transition like, though, with something like that? I mean...
Well,
basically,
as far as like personalities, getting people integrated into the systems and doing this, that, and the other.
Because did he just take on his old crew and everything?
No, he wouldn't take his crew. The crew that he has now would stay at Penske. There may be some kind of like incentives that are being offered there. I mean, he'd be like, well, if I go here, I want to bring my crew chief with me, or Jack Roush, who is very, very, I don't want to say stingy. He's very rigid as far as the way he runs his operations. So with that, I mean, he may say, okay, well, Jack Roush. No, he's not a micromanager. But Jack Roush may have come in and said, hey, look, you're going to run with this crew. We'll move some personnel around, but this is going to be your crew chief. And you're going to have to get to know him. You're going to have to learn how to work with him. Because the communication dynamic between crew chief and driver are very paramount, because the driver is giving you real-time data as to what the car is doing. And so the crew chief can use that information to make changes on the car, whether it be air pressure adjustments or chassis adjustments, when they come in for the pits. And so one of the best driver crew chief communication dynamics that I've ever seen was the one between Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus. They won 7 championships together.
Yeah.
And and there was even a string there where he won 5 titles in a row, back to back to back to back to back. And we'll never see that ever get replicated, ever again. I mean, we may see another 7-time champion. We may see an 8-time champion. But we'll never see somebody rattle off 5 championships in a row. Not the way that these two guys did it. I mean, it's like during that 5-year span, they dominated. I mean, absolutely dominated. And it was kind of cool to watch because you knew that you were seeing something historic. I mean, you may not have liked it because you got tired of seeing the same guy win all the time, but the way that Jimmy Johnson ran his races, yeah, he was a jackass from El Cajon, California, but he ran the races in kind of like this. I mean, he ran, for the most part, he ran his races really clean. He didn't put the bumper to people to move them up out of the way, you know, a whole lot. I mean, yeah, you saw him do it, but I mean, he didn't do it to the extent where he became the bad guy. I mean, he ran his races the right way, at least like he did, in my opinion. And I wasn't even a big, huge Jimmy Johnson fan back in the day, but I think that with Keselowski, when he moves over, if he decides to pull the trigger and do this, and he moves over, I mean, I think that it would be. I think it would be advantageous not only for him, but I think for Roush Fenway Sports, because Jack Roush, coupled with the Fenway Sports Group, who own Manchester United and the Boston Red Sox, they coupled. They came in there and said, okay, well, we're going to help you out. We're going to buy part of this team, and we're going to help operating costs and things like that. I think with Keselowski coming in and joining that and it becoming this huge three-owner thing, I think that it's going to help him in the long run. It's going to help him towards the end of his career to make that transition out of the seat and into more of the managerial ownership role. It's not going to say that he's going to miss the competition from driving. I mean, even Tony Stewart still runs, the occasional dirt car because he loves driving, but he enjoys the freedom that not having to climb into a seat every weekend offers him. So, I mean, there's that whole thing too. But I think that with Brad Keselowski stepping into a potential ownership role, it's going to enable him to kind of like access this whole other facet of his career and persona as a driver.
It might not happen this weekend though.
No, I mean they're gonna if there's any kind of like announcement, they'll hold off until the end of the season.
Well, I was talking about the race this weekend in Austin.
Oh yeah, with the rain, yeah.
Yeah, I was looking.
Well, no, because with the road courses, they have rain tires that they can put on those cars.
Okay.
And those cars can be outfitted with a single windshield wiper. But I mean.
But it's looking like.
Yeah, I mean, if it rains to the point where it becomes too terribly, like the vision is just shit, then yeah, they won't run those cars. But they have the opportunity, they have the resources, like because NASCAR with these road courses, I think there's like 6 road course races this year on the schedule, and so they've been experimenting with like the lower series, like the trucks and the Xfinity guys, running those wet weather tires, and I mean it was entertaining to watch. And, I mean, they even ran with the rain tires.
Do they do a lot of slipping and sliding on those?
No. I mean, because those rain tires have grooves in them just like our street tires do.
Oh, okay.
But they're incredibly soft compound tires, so they wear easily. I mean, they wear faster.
Yeah.
Just like if, you're running that rain tire on a dry portion of the track, it's going to tear that tire up. And conversely, if you're running the slicks, like they do on a dry conditions track, you're not going to have any traction because that's a one solid contact patch and the water's got nowhere to go. Whereas with the rain tires, they're grooved, so it's pushing the water out from underneath the tire. So it's creating traction that way. But it's a softer compound tire. So I mean, we'll just have to watch the radar, watch the weather reports. I know the NASCAR is probably already all over it. They've Goodyear supplies those tires, and Goodyear they do their homework for the most part. I can think of maybe 3-4 races over the last 5-6 years where tires have been the headline instead of the action on the track.
I really wish I bought Goodyear's instead of Michelin, but Goodyear has that thing now to where it'll actually indicate when you need to actually change the tire.
Yeah. Yeah. Where you mean, like where it notifies you like electronically in the car? Or just it's like there's a wear indicator.
Yeah, it's like a scale. It goes from like 8 to 2, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just let me see if I can bring it up. I think it's either Goodyear. I don't have it on my Michelin tires, and it's probably a new thing.
Yeah, because normally there's like when the tread gets down to a certain point, there's a ridge that runs across the width of the tire, and when you can start seeing that become visible, then it's time to get your tire changed, kind of a deal.
Yeah.
Or are you talking about like something like very noticeable, like a layer of colored rubber or something like that?
Ah.
He'll post the picture. Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'll post it on this. It's a new thing that actually uh, did to measure the depths of the tire and everything.
Yeah. So I mean, okay, so NASCAR is kind of funny. They've got this. They call it the silly season. It's kind of like baseball has their hot stove, where at the end of every season, or when the trade deadlines start to approach, and you get and then the end of the season, all these free agents start moving around, and everybody's like watching it, and they call it the hot stove in baseball. They call it the silly season. For NASCAR. What drivers are going to go where, who's staying, who's going. I mean, crew chiefs are moving around, stuff like that. Because if Keselowski decides to pull the trigger and he accepts that deal with Roush, that means he's going to open up a seat at Penske in the number 2 car, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to that's going to be a very coveted seat. And so,
Is it going to be coveted because of?
It's not because of who drove it, but it's going to be coveted because, one, it's an open seat. 2, it's going to be an open seat for a very well-funded team.
Okay. That's
Very competitive because Penske. I don't like Roger Penske racing. I don't. Now they
like their buddy.
Okay, so like Ryan Blaney drives the number 12 car for Penske. I like Ryan Blaney. I mean, he's a throwback personality. He drives. He keeps his mouth shut, and he drives the hell out of his car. Okay. Joey Logano drives the 22 car for Roger Penske. I think we could do without Joey Logano a lot. I really do. I don't care for Joey Logano. I know he paid his dues for the most part, and he just whines way too much.
Yeah.
And not to say that the guy doesn't have talent, because obviously he has to have talent to get to where he's at.
Oh, is it just his personality?
It's just his personality. It's like, oh, good God. Now, Dale Earnhardt Sr. said, as long as they're making noise, you're doing something right. So, great, fine. He's doing something right. He's got a lot of boo birds out there, and that includes myself. If he's leading a race, I want to see him blow a tire. I want to see him miss the exit on a turn, and I want to see him put it in the wall, not head first, obviously. I want to see him pancake the sides of his car up into the retaining wall, or I want to see somebody get him loose and get him out of the racing groove, and he has to lift out of the throttle, and he loses positions, or I want to see him blow an engine. I don't want to see this man succeed in Cup racing. I don't want to say hate. I really don't like having to hear Joey Logano wins this race or this, I don't, because even when he this past weekend, they made adjustments on his car mid-race, and it really kind of brought the car to life. And so he was making moves through the field. Hendrick Motorsports, who I pull for, finished 1, 2, 3, 4. They swept the top 4 positions at the race at Dover this weekend. Okay, historic. I mean, this is the first time it had happened for the organization, and it's one of the very few times in NASCAR history where a single team has swept the top 4 spots.
Yeah, that's pretty much difficult.
Yeah, I mean, the rarity of that, with the parity that we have in NASCAR, all 4 teams have to be firing on all 8 cylinders, and everything has to go just right.
Because what a lot of people don't understand on that is it really is once the team can come together like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it flows a lot smoother, and you can basically pick who's going to be number 1 spot that week.
Well, no, and I see. Okay, so yeah, well, you've got within the teams, the organizations themselves. Yes, they share information from team to team, and that's because it's the team, and ultimately, the better the entire organization does, the better all the 4 teams are going to do.
Okay.
But within the organization, you've got the 4 teams that are vying every week to win races. And the only one for Hendrick Motorsports this year so far that does not have a win is the reigning champ, and that's Chase Elliott. It's not to say that he hasn't been close. This car has been consistently getting better and better every week. And I think that eventually we are going to see Chase Elliott back in victory lane before the end of the season and before the playoffs start even. I think Hendrick is going to be one of those teams where one of those organizations where we've got all 4 cars advancing through the playoffs, and we're not going to start seeing drop-offs until late into the playoff rounds. As we start getting closer to like the Elite Eight, the Final Four. And then, ultimately that championship weekend. I don't think that it's going to be a clean sweep for Hendrick going into the championship weekend, but we're going to see the consistency and the information sharing within the Hendrick Motorsports organization as a whole really, really kind of coming to light. But with the individual teams, one car setup may not work work across the board. So, and a lot of that is based on the driving style. And how the car unloads off the truck. If the car unloads fast, great, and they don't have to make a whole lot of adjustments. Watch for that car to really kind of just amp it up and just kind of more or less put on a clinic on how to run that track. And the only thing that would keep that car from from winning the race would be accidents, pit road mistakes, and not keeping up with the track, because the conditions will change throughout the course of the race and affect the handling of the car and the way that the car can accelerate through a corner, out of a corner, off of a corner, down the straightaways. It's going to affect, because like track temperature, air temperature, whether or not the car can handle in what they call dirty air versus clean air.
Moisture on the road. No.
I mean, because they're, for the most part, these races are being run on dry tracks. With the exception of the road courses where you have the option or the ability to run on a wet track because of the tires that are being brought by Goodyear. But when we're talking about our intermediate tracks or super speedways, or even the road courses, when they're dry, it's how that car is set up at the shop, because you've got not just crew chiefs, you've got car chiefs, and you've got engineers, and I mean there's so much that goes into setting up these cars before they hit the track. I mean, these cars, the drivers run through simulations, and the information that is drawn from the simulations go into how the car is set up. NASCAR has limited teams to a certain number of wind tunnel tests per year. So, I mean, the information that they get off the wind tunnel tests go into how the car gets set up. And all that information that they gather from these tests, that whether it be simulations or what's called as a 7-post shaker rig, where they put an actual car up on a platform which got like 7 posts that operate independently to simulate track conditions and suspension. I mean, there's so many things that go into how these cars get set up. But the individual teams can have, like 4-car teams can have 4 different car setups. And what they'll do is the crew chief makes notes, and they have these huge notebooks, and they keep everything digital and written down. What setups were best for this conditions for this particular race at this racetrack, and they can use that to kind of go off for the following year, if that race occurs within the same time frame of the calendar year. So they know the environmental conditions are going to kind of sort of be the same. They can try to get the car to set up for that race, and it's all about how they keep up with the track, how well the information is communicated between the driver and the crew chief, the things of those natures. But so I mean, so far the season that NASCAR has put together at the beginning of the year, they really, really, really wanted. They've been really pushing this tagline, the best season ever. We've got like 8 or 9 different winners already this year. We've got a couple of repeat winners. We've got William Byron. I think he's won a couple of races. Alex Bowman's won a couple of races already. Martin Truex Jr.'s won a couple of races already. And then you've got your single winners like Kyle Larson's won a race. Brad Keselowski, he's won a race. Kyle Busch has won a race. Joey Logano has won a race. So I mean, we're starting to see a lot of that parity. start to really kind of come through and shine. And I think that with NASCAR doing what they're doing with the schedule, it really forces the teams to focus on car setup versus engine packages and things of that nature. So, which oddly enough still kind of play into how a car is set up. But all that aside, if the weather holds out, and depending on what NASCAR does and how they manage their resources for this race coming into next weekend, I think the COTA race down in Austin is going to be really it's going to be a really fun race to watch. I like watching road course races anyway, just because especially with the Circuit of the Americas, they've got these long straightaways and narrow turns. So, you look for a thing. You're going to hear the term called, term dive bomb city be used a lot next weekend, because you're going to get these teams. These cars, they're going to haul and butt down these straightaways, and the braking zones, the heavy braking that's going to be required to get into these turns, it's going to set up for a lot of passing opportunities, and it's going to be based on the driver's ability to outbrake another guy. To outbrake the person that they're racing to that corner. Because if you can outbrake somebody, if you can dive deeper into the turn before you get onto the brakes and outbrake in some turns and outdive in other turns, it's gonna make for a fun race to watch. And there's a series of S's at the Circuit of Americas. If you mess up one of the S turns, you're going to mess them all up, because you have to go into that section of the track a certain way, and you try to straighten those S turns out, those hairpins. Try to straighten those hairpins out as much as possible, so that way you don't have to scrub off as much speed as you would normally need to.
Because they're front wheel drive instead of rear wheel drive.
They're rear wheel drive cars.
Oh, man,
All the power that is being put down on the track is being put down at the rear wheel, and but aerodynamics and downforce is still going to play a lot for the front end, because how they set up the suspension and the tire pressures for the front ends dictates how much grip you're going to have. Whether or not the front end is going to plow, whether or not the front end's going to just, you're going to hear you're going to hear the term tire hop a lot coming into this race next weekend, because these braking zones on these road courses, if you overbrake or if you enter a turn just wrong, the tires will actually hop and across the racing surface, and so you'll start to see, the cars get loose into a turn, or they'll have to come up out of the racing groove to regain control of their car as they're coming in and out of these braking zones, and it'll make or break the race for a lot of these race teams, and it's overall, I think it's going to be a fun race to watch. I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. And just because it really highlights the ability of that particular driver on a road course versus the car being the center of attention. But it's going to be a fun race to watch. But I don't see a whole lot of I didn't really see a whole lot of other things going on in the news as far as the sporting world was concerned this week.
No, not really. A lot of the stuff is dying down because more people. One, it's dying down because a lot of the news companies and everything are almost on the brink of bankruptcy. They got rid of. If you look at all the late night shows they got rid of.
Yeah.
Ellen's out.
Yeah.
And as much as she would like to say it's because of her attitude and everything, no, it's just ratings.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I read somewhere too that her contract was up and she didn't want to renew it anyway. But
no, it's just
ratings have been down. Ratings are down all over the place because they're not watching as much TV because why? They're letting us outside. Well, I say they're letting us outside. It's like,
well, it's not even that. I had this thing back in 2008 when Netflix started doing their streaming.
Yeah.
I knew that was going to be the new norm. And I knew that it was going to have to be some kind of break, basically, that pushed everybody to the point to where they have to see. They'd rather be at home and everything, which
Right.
movie theaters might be a thing, but they're going to have to change their prices or something to that extent.
Yeah, and you're starting to see a lot more movies being advertised as in theaters only. So they're getting away from that theater at home or from those early access things.
They're trying to.
Trying to.
But,
I think
yeah.
the streaming services are going to fight that, especially things like Disney Plus.
Well, what they're doing now is, I mean, you're going to have to end up buying more. Is what they're doing is they might end up monetizing. They're in the talks doing that with like HBO Max, Disney
Yeah.
Plus.
Disney Plus. Disney's Plus still has their Premier access. I think HBO Max is going to have the model that's going to be the prevalent one going forward, where if you subscribe to the service, you're going to be able to get access to that, but they'll be able to garner revenue based on the number of streams.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to look at it almost like a ratings type program. Because I mean, I watched Kong versus Godzilla on HBO Max when it came out. Wonder Woman 1984 when it came out.
I really wasn't really impressed with that.
I was on the fence about it, but
And
Mortal Kombat when it came. Oh God, Mortal Kombat.
I
Was
watched
like,
that 3 or 4 times.
dude, that was
That was
surprisingly
really good.
that was really good.
It was really, really good.
And for those of us who grew up in the 80s and 90s, and you know, every time you see New Line Cinema come across your screen, you're like, oh, God, here it comes the cheese. While there was a degree of cheese in there, I think that New Line Cinema actually kind of reinvented themselves a bit with this new iteration of Mortal
Can't
Kombat.
really say that because it gave us Blade and it gave us the start of really good comic book movies.
It gave us Blade, but it also gave us Blade Trinity.
Can't say anything because Ryan Reynolds was in it. It was actually
While we are not
arguing
arguing the sexiness of Ryan Reynolds, Ryan Reynolds himself even was like, yeah, I really wish I hadn't done that movie.
He actually brought in he made that movie.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
the only reason why that movie was even remotely watchable was because of him.
Yeah.
But New Line Cinema, I mean,
It's gotten away. I mean, the only thing really that you were able to watch that was anything good was Lord of the Rings.
yeah, Peter Jackson, I think, single-handedly saved New Line Cinema.
Yeah.
But
it was really.
New Line Cinema, they'd kind of become synonymous with that '90s campy, over the top. You know, I mean, I think the one thing that really saved them during the course of the '90s was the Ninja Turtle franchise. You know, I mean, because I saw all 3 movies in the theater. Yes, I was one of those guys. You know, but
I went to go see the musical. It was a thing that was in town. I really liked the Ninja Turtles that much. There was a musical.
yeah, see, I didn't. No. But thank you, Amazon, for telling me that my tourniquets and my tactical flashlights and compression bandages got delivered. Yeah, so there's that notification.
But
yeah, I'm moving. I'm not moving, but I'm with my rucking program. I got a plate carrier, and I built an IFAC pouch for it, which is the intermediate first aid kit for those of you who don't know. But it's basically just the first aid kit. So I've been stocking my first aid kit that's going to be on my plate carrier. I've got my plates coming later this week. I think they're actually probably either today or tomorrow. But I'm going to start using the plate carrier more on my rucks as opposed to the actual ruck, because it's still the same weight, but it's going to be a more balanced load, and I'll be able to, start training for things like the Murph, going into next year. But
actually, we can call it for the rest of this episode.
yeah, actually, yeah. So
and we can get into other things. But this is Nerd Sports. I'm David Dickerman.
I'm Johnny Skelton. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Like
and
check out our
turn on your notifications.
And, give us a comment. If it's only one, guess what? You want a T-shirt.
Yeah, and
if it's 2, we might have to pick and choose and give you all knives and fight to the death. That's the thing, right? We can do that, right?
I'm trying to think of how we can do that virtually. You know what? If we get if we get into a comment, like if we get into a comment battle, we can set up a.
It can't be.
You know what? Here's what we can do.
Well, there's got to be some disclaimer to where it can't be anything racist. It can't be anything.
Right.
Really
We're going to have our ground rules, but I think what we could do is we could do like an audio
battle.
We could do
We
an
can go
audio
on
only.
Facebook.
Hold on, timeout, ceasefire. We
Okay.
can do an audio only Skype, kind of like a burn off.
Yes.
You know, I remember like Jim
Dude.
Rome used to do back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, it's just the trash talk. He would have guys call in and it was like, okay, what's your take on it? We could, you know, we could do if we have competing comments and we're just like these two are just squaring off and they've made it personal. We'll get their contact information. We'll Skype them audio only so they can't see each other because you can't use somebody's physical appearance. That's got to be one of the ground rules, and we can control that one. But we can do like an audio only Skype call where we can have those two square off against each other. We can sit here and moderate it. And I think it would work really well. And the winner would not only get a t-shirt, but we'd probably like maybe throw like a bag of Black Rifle coffee at him as well.
Dude,
Yeah.
that would be awesome.
Yeah, I
That'd
think
be
that
awesome.
would work. So
That would be freaking awesome.
yeah, so
I want to grab popcorn for that. That just sounds so awesome.
exactly, yeah. So I mean, we could sit there and moderate, be like, okay, that one we're going to deduct a point because you got a little too close to violating the rules there. That's a gray area. We don't operate in gray. It's all black and white. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's something we could take a look at. But definitely, you know, like we were saying, smash that subscribe button, hit the bell for the notifications. Definitely get engaged in the comments. Check out our online store. Give us a like on Facebook and check out our Spotify page. It's still Angry Me Production. Just give us a follow, and you know, we're trying to generate that frequency. We're trying to generate the revenue to
Yeah,
help
because
the show get better.
It is really hard to find our page on YouTube.
Yeah.
Which is
So,
ridiculous.
but he's David Dickerman. I'm Johnny Skelton, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right, love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.